By Gina, you do the same thing in what you do.
The important thing about this is you don't want to wait until you end up with a dowager's hump, or until you do have a fracture, or until you're full on osteoporosis. The whole purpose of this program that Sherry teaches and that I teach is to learn better alignment so that you have better balance to prevent falls, just in case you do have it and you don't know that you have it. But it's, you know, even in young athletes now, Sherry can tell you a little bit more about that, how athletic energy deficit can be a sign. It's, as she said, it's not just an old person's disease. And this is one way that we can prevent something from happening, as this awareness about medications that can cause it, and different factors that we're going to talk about.
Over-exercising. Okay. So the athletic energy deficit is in young women. The Foundation for Osteoporosis Research and Education up in Oakland, the FOR organization, did some research on young girls and runners that had significant bone loss. And they're under-eating, they're over-exercising, they have that thin, very thin, frail look, and you can really identify it easily if you take a look at some young athletes. Gymnasts, skaters, dancers, you know, those people that try to look thin and they don't eat enough to provide enough calories for the output of energy. So they're putting themselves at risk for bone loss over their adult life as well.
All right, then let's do this. Let's take a break. We're going to go to the break. As we go to the break, we're going to put up some tips for you, and they include eating lots of calcium-rich bone-building foods and getting plenty of bone-building exercises. We're going to take a short break. We'll come right back and continue our discussion. We are back and talking about TheraPilates, and you see on your screen this still. Ladies, tell me about this. What are we looking at here?
We're looking at everyday activities and certain exercises that would predispose someone to a fracture, and also exercises and suggestions for what to do instead of those activities.
Okay. Now, how does someone make an assessment, Gina, about fracture assessment? What the risks that are involved? How does someone go about doing that? The
Foundation for Osteoporosis Research and Education has come up with a fracture risk assessment. And Sherry and I just wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of the things on there, because there's going to be a survey that's going out. And the Foundation wants to get 10,000 surveys completed by, is it May, Sherry?
Within our region?
Within our region.
Within our region. And there are certain things on there that might be a little confusing to people.
Such as?
So, do you take a glucocorticoid?
Most people aren't going to know what that is unless they happen to take that. Okay.
Right, those are steroid medications used for things like arthritis or lupus and asthma. That's
because all those things can affect the outcome.
They can
make you lose bone.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Anything else?
And on the fracture risk assessment, it's family history, some of the things that you already pointed out. But those were a couple of things. One other thing on there is
secondary osteoporosis, that people don't know what that is.
So what is it?
Secondary osteoporosis means that we know the cause of it. So we know what caused it. If you took a medication, like you're on thyroid medication, that would mean that you have secondary osteoporosis. You've been on cancer, drugs, chemotherapy could cause bone loss as well. That would cause secondary osteoporosis.
Okay. So. Let me ask you, just switching gears when you're talking about exercising, there are some exercises that are good for you, for your bones. There are some that can cause damage to your bones.
That's right.
So tell me what's what. Can you name us examples?
The crunch is one of the worst ones. Dr. Sanaki of the Mayo Clinic did a research study in the 80s on what exercises would cause fractures. And she compared the crunch to an exercise on your stomach, lifting your chest for back strengthening. And what she saw at the end of that study in the postmenopausal women that participated in that study was that 89% of the women who did the crunch had an additional fracture.
Okay.
Only 16% of the people in the study that did the chest lift exercise had additional fractures. This was a huge indicator 20 or more years ago of fracture risk with the crunch.
And we're just now paying closer attention
and we're just now getting
20
it.
years later.
Right.
What about swimming?
Yeah. Swimming is a really popular older adult exercise. And the latest research on swimming, and there are many research studies on swimming, that shows that people who do swimming activities, even competitive swimmers, lose bone density.
Why? I mean, that seems so counterintuitive. Why do you suppose that is?
We think that it's the buoyancy of the water that reduces weight-bearing forces on the bones.
Okay. All right. So it is about the weight bearing.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, one interesting study that you might think is important is there was a study on water polo players. And what they did is they tested their arms and their legs for their bone density prior to training.
Okay.
They trained for several months. They looked at bone density in the legs and the arms, and the bone density reduced in the legs and increased in the arms.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the water polo there.
Right.
Out of
and
the water.
they're working.
Yeah.
You know, this is vigorous activity.
All right.
So.
Well, what we're going to do is we'll take another break, and then I want you guys to actually demonstrate some of the exercises that you think are important for TheraPilates. As we go to the break, we're going to put information up on your screen. You're going to see a website and phone number, TheraPilates. Go ahead, and if the guys will put it up on the screen, I want to tell you a little bit about what's there. You see TheraPilates. The first number is Sherry's number, the 888, and the website for TheraPilates. You want to learn anything about it. The second number that you see there is the number for Gina if you would like to contact her. That is in regards to the classes that she offers in Monterey County as opposed to the classes that Sherry offers in Santa Cruz County. We're going to take a short break and we'll come right back.